10 brutal murder cases in Nigeria that has remained unsolved. Up till this day, these victims have not gotten their justice. At number 10, Prince Imabuchi, Delta State. On the 11th of July 2022, the decomposing body of a Nigerian actor, Prince Imabuchi, was discovered in his apartment in Asaba, Delta State. He had been brutally murdered with an axe, and his body was found wrapped in a mattress that was left in his living room. Prior to his body being discovered, Prince Imabuchi was last seen around the 5th of that month. But on the 6th, his personal assistant by the name of Sunday Ikemakolam, who also lived with the actor, was seen by a neighbor moving properties belonging to the actor from the apartment into a van. When confronted by this neighbor, Sonny claimed that he was ordered by the actor to move these properties to a location for a movie set production. And that was a lie that seemed fitting, that somehow got Sonny off the hook, because that would have been the moment Sonny would have been caught and arrested. Although the neighbor said she tried to reach Imabuchi to confirm if indeed he had sent his PA to move his properties out of his house, but the call was to no avail, and the only reason she couldn't reach the actor was because dead people don't take calls. It was most absolutely possible that Imabuchi had already been killed and was already stuffed in his mattress when his properties were being moved out of his apartment on the 6th of July 2022. However, it would take another week for the neighbors to realize that Prince Imabuchi was still home and was never at a movie set. The smell of his decomposing body was what informed his neighbors, family and friends that he was dead. And it did not take long to assume the prime suspect, his assistant, Sonny. However, as at the time of making this video, it has been near over a year and nothing had been said about the killer or killers of the actor. Sonny the assistant has not been caught and arrested, and no one seemed to know who Sonny was or where Imabuchi had picked him up from. Although sources claimed Sonny was a former butcher at a market in Abia State, whom the actor decided to take under his wings to help to give him and his family a better life. But that's as far as what's being said. For now, the case of Prince Imabuchi remains unsolved, and with each passing year, it gets colder. Number 9. Emeka Vincent, Abuja. On the 1st of August 2021, a 37-year-old popular Nigerian chef by the name of Emeka Elugo was found dead in his house in Kantampe Extension, Abuja, by his newly wedded wife Chidinma, who had just returned from church. He was said to have been stripped naked, tied, beaten, and strangled to death. Descriptively, this light-skinned man had already turned green by the time he was discovered. Chef Emeka had recently celebrated his birthday and had just returned from Dubai a few weeks before this gruesome incident. Some of his friends and family believed he was killed by people he knew because it was said on that Sunday evening, after his wife and mother-in-law had left for church, he was visited by two men who must have passed through the tight security of the compound, and only him could have permitted the security man to let them in. According to what was said at the time, Emeka was supposed to be at church with his wife, but chose to stay back because he was expecting two guests for a business meeting purpose. However, it seemed the business meeting did not go as planned, as these two male guests had other things in mind, which included stripping, tying, beating, and strangling of the victim. The weirdest part of this home invasion was that the two guests did not steal anything, which made it clear that they had only just come to kill.
They might even be governors, they might be kings, but for the purpose of that thing, that place I need to get to, they are the obscure man.
After a few months, it seemed the police had a breakthrough on the case when they arrested three men in connection to the murder. One Mr. Kingsley Obinna, Mr. Musa Tanimu, and a man named Mohammed Shahaba. These three men were named to be the people who conspired to kill Chef Emeka. However, that is all that would be said by the police about them. It's been well over 2 years and we still don't know why, or if at all, they were the one who did it. We don't know the evidence that ties them to Chef Emeka, and worst of all, like the police had promised that they will be charged to court, up till now, nothing had been said if they were eventually taken to court. It's been well over 2 years. Although people had claimed that they were just scapegoats used as a front to make it seem as though the police had done their job. But up to now, how these three men were connected to the death of Chef Emeka is still unknown, and neither have they been charged to court like the police assured us 2 years ago. And that is why the case of Chef Emeka remains unsolved and cold. Number 8. Ugochi Nwore, Ebonyi State. Ugochi Nwore was a 26-year-old young TikToker who was found dead in a hotel room in Ebonyi State on Monday, 2nd May 2022, after it was said she was approached by two men at a bar who solicited sex for money. According to Ugochi's friend, the men had approached other girls in the bar for a similar offer, but they were all turned down by everyone else, even by Ugochi's friend. However, when these two strange men presented the same offer that everyone else had rejected to Ugochi, she took it, and then she left with the two men to a nearby hotel. This would be the last time Ugochi Nwore would be seen alive.
Nigeria,
The next day, during a routine check in the hotel, Ugochi would be found dead in one of the hotel rooms, naked with her hands, legs, and mouth tied. And when the police were involved, they discovered a total of 12 condoms in that same room, having them to believe Ugochi had been gang raped by presumably more than just two men. Although the case seemed promising at the time, given the amount of details and the account of a friend. I mean, if the friend had seen the two men, and if more people had also seen these two men, how hard would it have been to identify them? Unfortunately, it turned out to be harder than it seemed. Another factor was that the 12 pieces of used condom found in the hotel room might contain DNA samples that could easily be used to identify the perpetrators. But due to technological setback, the police may not be able to go through that route. The only thing left for them to do was for the witness to describe the two men. And hopefully, with the description given, the police would be able to trace their suspects. However, one extra detail of the vehicles these men came with was what might have played a role in the overall coldness of this case. Gochi's friend's description of the vehicle or plate number, believed to have been used or driven by these men, suggested that they were most likely foreigners, or even more so, they were in transit, which meant that they were not from the States, nor were they from the country. They were travelers who, as at the time of the whole chaos, were most likely on their way out of the country. This possibility may have played a big role in why this case remains unsolved and may go unsolved for a very long time. Number 7. Chop Boy, Gwezi, B. Rollins, and Blessing, Abuja. Chop Boy was an upcoming Nigerian singer who was found brutally murdered along with 3 of his friends at a house in 62nd Crescent, Gwarinpa, Abuja. It was said that Chop Boy had gone to a studio located in the home of one of the victims, known as Gwezi. Chop Boy had gone with his friend and producer B. Rollins and B. Rollins' girlfriend Blessing. They had all gone there to work on a song. Little did they know that something was about to go wrong. The killers, believed to be a group of young boys, were reported to have been allowed into the house by the security because it was a normal thing for young men to come and go into the studio in the house. It was typical and nothing strange. However, unlike other young men in the past who had come into Gwezi's house to record a song, this group of young men on this day had come with a different motive. According to reports, the killers were allegedly after B. Rollins, as it was said that B. Rollins had been threatened multiple times in the past by an unknown group of people, who most likely might be known to him, and maybe just him. When the killers stormed the house, it is believed a confrontation ensued. However, Chop Boy, Gwezi, B. Rollins and his girlfriend Blessing were not exactly prepared for that kind of fight because the men who had just come in were equipped with weapons, machetes, axes, and most possibly knives. It's like bringing a gun to a rap battle. Chop Boy and his friends were butchered to death. With the loud music playing in the background, neighbors say they heard screams, but just when they could place the tone, the screams were followed by a happy birthday chant and a loud music, making it out to be a birthday party. The investigation done by the police revealed that B. Rollins was the main target and that Gwezi, Chop Boy, and maybe Blessing were all collateral damages. A writing that was left on the wall with the blood of the victims read, "He told him not to play with her." This writing will make it out to be some kind of fight over a girl, believing to be B. Rollins' girlfriend, Blessing, who unfortunately was also a victim. Up till this day, this case remains unsolved, as no one has been named or arrested in connection to the Gwarinpa 4 murder case. Number 6. Esther Isaac Asuko, Abuja. On the 25th of February 2022, Esther Isaac, a 22-year-old young lady, lodged in a room in Agete Hotel in Gwarimpa, Abuja. It was believed Esther had only just traveled from her hometown in Akwa Ibom to Abuja, where she met up with an unidentified man of whom it was said she lodged in the hotel with. Mysteriously, the man did not stay long at the hotel. Barely an hour after he and Esther made for their room, it was said he left, presumably leaving Esther alone in the hotel room they had just lodged in. Assuming he was going to come back to the hotel, the workers did not think too much of it until the next morning during a routine check when Esther was found dead in the room. The police were said to have been immediately called and Esther's body was immediately evacuated for autopsy. Her brother Emmanuel was also contacted and the case file for her murder was opened, except it wouldn't take long before it would go cold. The case was stalled by the inability to identify the man Esther had lodged with, as the security camera from the hotel did not work that day. Autopsy revealed Esther was strangled and beaten to death, and unlike similar cases like this, it appeared Esther did not have any sexual activity with the said man, as she was fully clothed when she was found dead, which might have explained why the man left almost immediately after arriving, as though he had only lodged with Esther for the purpose of just killing her. Esther's case was one that could have been easily solved by men looking into her phone records, but the case stalled, and despite Emmanuel, Esther's brother, advocating for his sister's case to be prioritized, it was still left in the cold, making it one of Nigeria's unsolved murder cases in recent times.
Listen to this. How can someone come to the hotel? You said she came and lodged with a man. She came with a man, and you have no details of this man. And a big hotel like a Agete Hotel, you are telling me you don't have a camera. The camera was bad, just lying up and down. It is not nice.
Number 5. Toritseju Emmanuel Jackson, Abuja. Emmanuel Jackson was a 23-year-old law graduate who was stabbed several times to death in front of the top-rank hotel in Wuse Zone 4 by some unidentified men in the early hours of Sunday, September 12, 2021. He was said to have returned to Nigeria from the UK in January 2021 to attend law school and complete his NYSC before possibly returning back to the UK. However, that part of the plan would not come to pass, as his life was gruesomely cut short in an unexplained circumstance that remains mysterious till this very day. According to what we know, somewhere in the midnight of September 11, 2021, it was said one of Toritseju's friends had invited him out, and it was believed that they had gone to a few different places before arriving at Top Rank Hotel, where they had come to see few friends who had invited them. Few moments after seeing their friends at the hotel, they left the hotel and made for the parking lot outside the hotel, where it was said an unknown number of men out of the darkness pounced heavily on Emmanuel Toritseju, stabbing him multiple times as he most likely screamed and ran for his life. After the men were done stabbing him, Emmanuel Jackson ran back into the hotel building where he bled to death. It was by dawn that his body was eventually evacuated by the police. Toritseju's case was stalled till it went cold, despite the fact that there was a CCTV footage that showed what happened that night. Nothing was done because it was next to impossible to see the faces of the killers in the video, as most of it were pitch dark. About 7 people that were around the hotel were arrested for questioning, but they were released multiple times with no progress to the case. Up until now, nothing has been said or done about the brutal murder of Toritseju Emmanuel Jackson.
Though Tojo's life was aborted, his loved ones say his memory will live in their heart forever. Onno Shorena Obozegi, AIT News, Abuja.
Number 4. Temple George, Bayelsa. George was a 30-year-old baker who lived alone in Yenagoa, Bayelsa State, until he was killed on Friday, 16th April 2021, and locked in his apartment. His body was found in his bathroom by his neighbors and the landlord around 4 p.m. the next day, after a client who had paid him to bake a cake could not reach him because he didn't show up. The discovery of Temple George's body in his apartment was a shocking discovery, and during investigation, a neighbor said he had seen him talking with 2 people the night before and had later heard someone scream at night. But when she tried to verify the noise, she claimed she did not see anything. A family member of Temple George claimed that it was the 3rd time someone had tried to kill him, except this time around, they succeeded. It was said the police had begun investigation, but apparently, since no one could identify the two men Temple George was seen speaking with the day before he was killed, no progress has been made to the case, making it one of Nigeria's unsolved murder mysteries, and a case that has soon gone cold. Number 3. Godwin Ayogu, Ghana. Godwin Ayogu was a 19-year-old Nigerian student studying in Ghana. He was found murdered on Wednesday, February 19, 2014. He was a 300-level student of social sciences at the University of Cape Coast in Ghana. It was believed that he was killed by unknown persons and his body was dumped by the roadside. Godwin was said to have been last seen alive on Tuesday, February the 18th at the university campus. According to investigations, it was claimed that he had borrowed part of his school fees, $5,000, to his roommate, Ogunsanyo Abayomi, who refused to pay back when Godwin needed the money. It was also alleged that he had reported to other Nigerian students in the university to help him confront Ogunsanyo to pay back the money so he would pay his school fees. However, a day after confronting Ogunsanyo, Godwin was later found dead with several stab wounds on his body, with his legs and hands tied. It was believed he was killed in the process of trying to get his money. 5 students, who were all Nigerians, were arrested, but they were later released after several months in police custody and after being taken to court. In fact, it was the court who asked they be released due to insufficient evidence that these 5 boys killed Godwin Ayogu. Despite efforts by the Lagos state government and the Nigerian embassy in Ghana, no further progress had been made regarding the killers of Godwin Ayogu. Number 2. Cedric Foko Ludovic, Anambra State. Cedric Foko was found dead in his apartment in Onitsha, Anambra State, sometime towards the end of 2021. His body was found stabbed, beaten, and also strangled, with his properties stolen and his apartment ransacked. At the time he was found, he was already at a serious stage of decomposition, which made it unlikely to know the exact day he was killed. And it was clear that his killer or killers were the ones who may have ransacked his apartment. Cedric was a Cameroonian, but had come to Anambra State to live with his in-laws. He had started a barbing salon and also began installing POP in people's houses and making skit videos. He was pretty much doing well for himself. Although the prime suspect in his murder case was very visible and very clear and was named to be one Ezekiel Nweke, who was said to have also gone missing around the time Cedric was found dead. Ezekiel was Cedric's employee and roommate. Although they shared the apartment with 2 other people, Ezekiel and Cedric shared a room. Ezekiel was said to have been hired by Cedric to work in his barbing salon, in which he would be remitting 6,000 naira weekly to Cedric and keeping the rest to himself. But weeks before Cedric was found dead, Ezekiel and Cedric had a disagreement, and according to neighbors, Cedric had complained to them about Ezekiel, and this would be revealed after Cedric's body had been found. It was also said a neighbor had seen Ezekiel moving some properties weeks before Cedric's body was found, including a television set, as well as other barbing equipment from Cedric's saloon. And this made it very clear that Ezekiel Nweke was the number 1 prime suspect behind the death of Cedric Foko. Sources reveal that Ezekiel moved to Port Harcourt. However, up to now, Ezekiel still walks free as he has not been caught and arrested. Although this case seems to have the possibility of being solved, for now, it remains unsolved and appears to be running cold.
Goodness.
Baby, good morning.
Morning, how are you doing?
I'm fine.
You are looking good. Money. Usually you come around today be lockdown. Don't be say after you go tell me say you get belly.
Which kind of talk be that one? Hey! I beg, leave me. Then you know say your sperm no fit pregnant woman. Wait till they talk. I be no be I lie. Pregnant woman now. Your sperm dey watch you. I beg go Jerry.
Oh shit! Number 1, Eunice Olawale, Abuja. Eunice Olawale was a mother of 7 and a deaconess in a popular Pentecostal church parish in Kubwa, Abuja. She was killed in the morning 9th of July 2016 when she went out to preach the gospel around 5 a.m. Some weeks before the incident, she overheard a conversation about some Muslims in the area not being happy with what she was doing. She stopped her preaching for a while before she continued. According to reports, Eunice was stabbed several times and left to bleed to death on the street with her megaphone and Bible by her hands. By dawn, she was taken to the police station where her family later came to identify her. As at the time, 6 suspects were arrested, but in the end, nothing was done because of lack of evidence. The brutal murder of Eunice Olawale remains one of Nigerian unsolved and cold cases, with no chance or hope of her getting the justice she deserves.
At the burial site, prayers are offered and the casket is lowered.
Come and lower the casket.
Born on the 23rd of July 1974 and buried on her birthday 42 years later, many people see Deaconess Olawale as a hero, a Christian who died at her post.